Hello creatives, I'm Joanna Penn from thecreativepenn.com, and today I'm talking about when to start marketing your book. Now, this can be a difficult topic, especially for first-time writers, and I'm going to talk about fiction and non-fiction. And these are very, very different in terms of marketing, especially for your first book. So let's start with non-fiction, because most non-fiction authors do start out with something else. So either they have a blog, they have a podcast, they know the topic they're talking about, they might be a speaker, they might already even have a business. For example, a health practitioner who wants to write a book on massage in order to get more clients. So there are lots of reasons why a non-fiction author would start marketing before they ever write a book. And if you are going from scratch, like if you don't have any of those things, then you can also start working on what they call your platform, the way you can reach people before you start writing your book. And in fact, it can be really powerful, because by the time you've built up a bit of an audience, you have people ready to buy the book, but also you'll be clearer on what you actually want to talk to them about. So for example, some of my books here, the Successful Author Mindset book, for example, I only wrote because I wrote a blog post on the Creative Penn about the roller coaster, the emotional roller coaster of being a writer. And that blog post really took off, a lot of comments, a lot of emails about it, a lot of traffic about it. And I was like, oh, I should write a book on that, because that's a topic that people are really interested in, and I'm very interested in it too. So I wrote that book based on people already being ready, and so the marketing was almost built into the book. If you're just starting out as a non-fiction writer, then consider starting a blog, starting a podcast, speaking, doing these things that will help you work out what you want to say anyway, and they will actually be marketing. So for non-fiction writers, absolutely, you can start marketing whenever you want, building up an audience ready for whatever you want to sell them. And I've talked about some business models for authors before, but basically, non-fiction authors have a lot more possibilities for business models and things to sell an audience that doesn't even have to be a book. So that's for non-fiction. So let's now talk about fiction, which I think can be much more complicated. So this is my first novel, Stone of Fire, and when I started writing this, I was already blogging, and I had a podcast, and I started to talk about the craft of writing and my journey to writing it. So that was something I had started to do, but that's not really what I recommend for other people. I mean, sure, great, go ahead. But if you do that, you will end up having a non-fiction audience of writers as well. So if you just want to market your fiction only, then there are some things to think about. So first of all, don't worry too much about building a platform and an audience for your fiction if you're writing your first book, especially if you haven't finished that first draft. So I get a lot of people who email me who have not finished a draft of a book, who want to build an author website and think about their branding, but in my experience, you really don't know who you are as a fiction writer until you've written a couple of books. So it's very hard to build a platform for fiction if you're unsure of what you're doing. So first of all, finish the draft of the book. Once it's with an editor, and I have another video on editing, then you can start thinking about, okay, well, maybe now's a good time to think about marketing. Because what I don't want to happen, and I've seen it happen a lot, is to get obsessed with marketing before you've written. That's no fun. Focus on writing first. Then, once you have got a draft of the book and you are moving towards publication, because let's face it, unless it is actually a finished product, no one's going to be able to buy it anyway. So what are you marketing? But then the key in terms of fiction is to start building relationships. So start going to events, get on social media, start meeting other people in your genre, look at joining newsletters of other authors in your genres, and start thinking about marketing. Absolutely. And in fact, if you want a traditional publishing deal, then they are going to be very interested in your ideas around marketing. And if you can build up an audience of people who love what you love, then fantastic. So on my fiction site, JF Penn, I do now have articles and videos from my research trips. I have articles on things like ossuaries and architecture and places where I've been, and just really cool things that I found that go into my books, but they're not really necessary until you have something to sell as a fiction author. So I hope that gives you some ideas on when to start marketing, because it is very, very different from fiction to non-fiction. And this also comes back to what I've talked about in another video about finding the time to write. I hear so many authors who want to spend their time on the marketing activities and forget about the writing. And at the end of the day, we are writers. Unless you love marketing and you want to be a marketer. But certainly for me, the marketing activities are important, but they have to come after the books. So I hope that helps. And if you want more tips on the craft and business of writing, subscribe to the channel. And please do leave your questions and comments below, as it will help me do more videos in the future. So happy writing, and I'll see you next time.